Welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. It certainly has been tonight, hasn't it? Well, I'm joined by Kevin Maguire and Emily Sheffield. Welcome to both of you. Lovely to see you both. Just on that last story there, this Afghan war hero, it's very interesting to me that amid all this stories about the people trying it on the boats, the Albanian economic workers and so on, who just want an easy time here, you get stories like that which really touch you, and you realise that some of these people are genuinely desperate and deserving people who should be in this country.
More than half the people who get across the channel are given leaves to stay. It's
right.
What we've done is we've shut off the legal routes to try and keep them out. But I'll be surprised if you don't have a review of his case by tomorrow night.
Well, I shall be tweeting it to about 8.5 million people, which tends to have a little effect on number 10 when we do that, because I do think it's completely outrageous. Let's talk about cultural appropriation, Emily. So a dance troupe for female pensioners has been forbidden from performing in sombreros and pharaoh costumes by Germany's National Garden Show after being accused of cultural insensitivity. Now, they're the AWO Ballet, performing since the 80s. They're a charity for the elderly and disabled to give women in their 60s, most of them are widows, an outlet to socialise and dance. What is going on?
Listen, I worked in the fashion industry for many years. Cultural appropriation was definitely happening there. You had a completely white industry taking black culture and selling it for a lot of money, and they were the ones taking them.
But what is wrong with cultural...
There is a place for cultural appropriation. Not here. This is ridiculous. They thought a sombrero was going to be insulting in some way, worn in a show by some lovely old ladies.
And I never think the people who we presume from these stories are supposed to be offended would be remotely offended. I've been in Mexico many times. I've never seen anyone in Mexico be offended by tourists wearing sombreros. So, Kevin, why can't we rename it cultural celebration? Why does everything have to be immediately offensive?
Yeah, well, blackface is certainly offensive. They're not doing that. One time people used to...
But a sombrero on a widow dancing in a charity?
No, because they'll be allowed to wear ponchos. I mean, the only good thing is this festival's now moved them up on the main stage.
But where does this line get derived?
I think it's not bad to be aware and be respectful and question. But every now and again, if you're going to do that, just as you get ignorant people who trample all over others, you'll get people who are oversensitive and then make a mistake. And this just feels like a mistake.
The problem is, Emily, I just think this is a creeping thing where once you give in to any of these things, it never stops. It never stops. Once you've established cultural appropriation, not a day goes by without somebody somewhere falling foul of culturally appropriating someone somewhere.
I literally don't think that they haven't looked up what cultural appropriation is and the roots of it. So I just think it's people sort of in a sort of panic. Oh my God, if we do this, we're going to get in lots and lots of trouble. They're not doing any research. They're not actually working out what is cultural appropriation, what isn't.
Yeah.
So it's just sort of got
why can't you celebrate other cultures?
Well, you can, but would you say it was OK to black up as a Jamaican?
I don't.
If you're white, would you? And then
it's a fair point. I certainly don't think that blackface is acceptable.
Yeah, so there is a limit. So you've agreed.
Of course. I'm not saying there's no limit.
Yeah.
But widows wearing a sombrero.
No, they've got it wrong here.
It's ridiculous.
You're right. You're right. The organisers got it wrong.
As I've said, I do think the white fashion industry definitely at times was stealing a black New York street culture, and they weren't seeing any of the money. And in some cases, one big fashion group actually had to pay a black street culture guy because they quite literally stole his designs without paying him.
Look,
that's wrong.
Yeah, there are limits.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone disputes that.
But a sombrero...
and also, I think intent is important. If you're intending to be offensive, right? So if you're deliberately culturally offensive to another culture, if you're mocking a culture, that's one thing. But if you're celebrating it, it's a totally different thing. And I think we've lost that ability to draw a line between celebration and inappropriate appropriation. Right, haven't we?
Can do sometimes, but I think it's not bad to be aware and challenge. And if a load of Mexicans turn up, or Japanese, or Egyptians turn up and they're offended, then I think they should be listened to and not laughed at. And I know it hasn't happened in this case.
But I subscribe to the Ricky Gervais thing, which is someone's always going to be offended somewhere about something.
Why are you going to be offended anyway if you're a Mexican and there's some nice old ladies wearing some sombreros?
I don't think you would be.
I
agree.
Everyone's sombreros when we go to Mexico.
I'm Irish. On St. Patrick's Day, when everyone dresses up in green as leprechauns and stuff, I don't run around saying I'm offended. I say, where's my Guinness?
No, I don't mind if somebody dresses up as Tower Bridge. bridge or whatever and mocks us as British or beefeater. They can do what they like.
I don't understand why you would be offended.
But I can sometimes see people who've had a lot of abuse then will feel...
There's a line, but it's as with all woke things, it's just gone ridiculous. Talking of which, let's go to woke language. So we're now being told, apparently, that Boots, the chemists, they've changed the word less abled. Well, they've changed from disabled to less abled on a parking sign.
Can I talk about this, please? Because as someone who had a disabled nephew...
Yeah.
Sorry, why is less abled better than disabled?
Yes.
I think it's shocking. I think it's
like the Roald Dahl censorship when you couldn't call someone fat, you could call them gigantic.
You're saying someone is less able. I think it's more insulting than disable. There are some words we do need to change and rethink, quite a number of them. But to replace them with something which I think is worse.
But what about the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence have asked NHS staff to refer to alcoholics as people who misuse alcohol?
I don't mind that so much.
Why?
Because they are misusing alcohol.
They're also alcoholics.
They're
also alcoholics. It's like when you say you can't call fat people fat. Well, they're fat.
They're not going to. They're not going to.
Fat
I know, but
right. And by the way, when people say to me, "You're looking a bit fat," I go to the gym more and I lose a bit of weight, and they go, "You've lost a bit of timber, and it feels good."
I mind less about that. I think Boots saying someone is less abled is deeply insulting.
I can't see people going to meetings of people misusing alcohol anonymous. I think we'll just go to Alcoholics Anonymous.
Some of the others. They also asked this National Institute for staff to refer to drug addicts as people who use drugs, smokers as people who smoke, rough sleepers as people who experience homelessness. This is as if any of this matters to these people.
Is this the NHS?
Huh?
Is this the NHS?
This is the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence.
These are definitions, aren't they?
I've asked NHS staff. Yeah, but here's my point. None of these people care about being called these things. This is some woke imbecile rewriting language for people who don't either know or care.
But also,
I've never heard a single smoker say, "How dare you call me a person who smokes?" It doesn't happen.
It's covering up much more serious issues. We've just had all these stories this week of the NHS where people are being raped in hospitals, and we're talking, and they're being advised.
I agree.
NHS people have to talk.
But that's
what should be the headline.
That's been out for some while.
That's the point. The wokies, they get these ludicrous things amplified, and it smothers real stories.
Piers, come on.
We're amplifying
Let's just go back a bit. At one time, we used to talk about handicapped people.
You're no longer going to be called. Well, you're no longer going to be called the Piers Pack. You're going to be people who identify as packers. Okay, that's it. Just in case either of you are offended. Great to see you both. That's it from me. What a night. What a show. Whatever you're up to, keep it like this show. Uncensored.